is such a pleasure, and I am looking forward to another day where we are interacting. And I have um, my good friend and collaborator, Carolina Cavaleros, here with us. And she'll be joining us in a little while. So today we are going to be talking about um, embracing self love, you know, embracing self love and acceptance of who we are because we are unique. We are unique. And in this world where everything is focus, upside down, sometimes we're not sure of what is happening and we think loving ourselves is secondary. No, you have to love yourself. You have to have self love. If you don't love yourself, nobody else will. And I just want to say that as we dive into this subject today, this topic, I'll be asking some questions and then we will just go through. So we'll see how everything flows today. Please free to leave any comments in the comments. Write your comments in there. We love hearing from you. You being a part of this is really exciting and you make it enjoyable. Um, is enjoyable when I'm on when you take you on your own, but when you can see people popping in and popping out, you guys don't know how that makes me feel. I feel really excited and I know that you're enjoying it. So thank you everyone for your feedback. Thank you for letting me know that you're enjoying it. Thank you for letting me know that the information is exactly what you need and you're looking for. So I'm really pleased that I have stepped up to the plate and I've taken on this challenge and I'm doing it. So today we are on day 22. So let me get Carolina into the studio so that she can introduce herself again to you. She is a collaborator, so we're collaborating together because you cannot work on your own. Remember, I said you can't do anything on your own. By yourself, you can do nothing. But when you're with somebody else, you can move mountains. Okay, so mountain can be moved, and we are going to be talking about embracing self-love. As I said, in the world that we live in, we have so much pressures and so much expectations that we sometimes we forget to embrace it. And we need to embrace it. We need to embrace ourselves. So Carolina, come on in. You're in studio. So you can introduce yourself to the audience and then we'll carry on.
Hi, good evening. My name is Carolina Ceballos. I've collaborated with Verna before. I am a life and business coach. We've just launched our new coaching company, which is called Bespoke Me, and it's about the journey of self-love and transitioning from being heartbroken, trauma bound, and becoming a single parent to being happier and healthier and growing up happier and more stable, emotionally stable children. So I've been collaborating with a couple of different companies and boroughs to help this be established and obviously like just be the foundations that people often don't know about to help their children and their families live a much better mentally and emotionally stable life that a lot of us I feel like we're drowning in this really unstable world that we're living in.
Yes, exactly. And that's the whole purpose for the show, the Verna Hayward Unstoppable Life with Verna Hayward. Because we need that. We need to have that. And that's when that came to me to do that, I decided, okay, I'm going to just step into it. But attached to that as well is my program called the Unstoppable Resilience, 3 Powerful Practices to Take Your Power Back. So I do have that course which we can discuss and you can look at that. It's all about building resilience. Because when you can build resilience, resilience is a muscle. So it's like you're exercising daily and you're building muscle. An athlete is building muscle so that they can run the race. It's the same thing. Every day you have to build muscles. Every day your mindset, you have to be working on your mindset. So your self-love becomes part of that. So when we work on our self-love, we're working on every aspect and is a continuous thing. So as we look to dive into self-love, what is in it when we look at defining self-love? So the self-love is defined as acceptance. So you have self-love and acceptance. And self-love is often described as having a positive regard for oneself. So sometimes you don't have that positive regard. Sometimes you're thinking, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy. But no, self love is about you having a positive regard about yourself because you have to have that. Somebody else can have it, but if you don't have it, then you don't have any belief in yourself. And it's important for you to have that belief because you are unique. You are worthy. You are worthy of everything good that comes your way. You're worthy of abundance. So loving yourself is key. Before you could love anything else or anyone else, you have to love yourself. And when we could recognize that, when we recognize that and we is appreciating of that, when you appreciate your worth, that's so gratifying. It's gratifying when you can appreciate your love, when you can treat yourself with love and kindness. And acceptance involves embracing oneself. So sometimes you have to hug yourself. Give yourself a good old hug. And it's like you're having a dance. So you're doing a dance. So you're dancing with yourself. So you give yourself a good hug. And it includes your flaws. So you accept your flaws. Because all of that is part of your imperfection. So you accept all of that about yourself. And yes, there will be undue criticism. Yeah, you could be your worst critic. And it's okay to be your worst critic. It's okay to criticize yourself because what you're doing is building and gaining the confidence that you need to push through in this life. Because with confidence, you can do anything. So, Carolina, do you have anything to say where that is concerned?
Oh, well,
I know
you
you have a lot about self love.
there's a lot of different points I have in our own course. We've got our self-love journals coming out, and we've got worksheets that will help you go through this whole process. But as Verna explained, self-love is not just about being selfish and just loving yourself and taking pretty pictures and posting them on Instagram. I think one point that is really key to mention is that sense of being perfect and being, a certain way, a certain height, a certain with certain aesthetics. And that's not necessarily what
Mhm.
self-love on its own is. Yes, that's part of your self-care package, but it's not self-love. What self-love, it's what's coming from the inside. It's accepting and recognizing your strengths, your weaknesses, your passions, and your values, and that's the core of what self-love is, and that's what we'll be discussing a little bit further.
Okay, so what are some of the challenges you say we face? So why is it challenging for many of us to practice self love and acceptance? Why do you think
Precisely.
is a challenge?
Yeah, I think it's precisely what I've just mentioned. I think growing up in the environments that we're growing up with, there are certain expectations and media coverages that we grow up with, and we think that that's what we're all supposed to look like. And as everybody understands, we're all very, very different. We all come from different cultures, from different backgrounds, from different with different beliefs. And I think trying to fit into what the media says we should look like, and what our cultures often say we should do and should live in a certain way and act in a certain way and dress in a certain way, we sometimes conform ourselves and think that that's the only way. And that's one of the biggest challenges, thinking that that's the only size and it's one size fits all, and that's not right.
Yeah, that's so true, and that's how a lot of people try to be like somebody else when they don't need to do that. I just want to, before we go any further, I just want to say thank you to everybody joining us on Instagram and on YouTube. And those of you who will be popping in and out, I know some of you look at in the background. You like to be anonymous, and I just want to acknowledge you and let you know that we are grateful for you being here with us. So yes, so as we talk about the challenges that we face when it comes to still loving yourself. I mean, you talk about negative image and all of that. So if I was to go a little bit further and say, um, it does make sense where we often find ourselves we find ourselves in a cycle of comparison, which is what I mentioned a little while ago. So we want to, and that gives us self-doubt because we want to compare ourselves to somebody else and not understanding that we are unique, and and we need to appreciate who we are. So tell me, how do you think we can break away from that, given that you have a course that you mentioned, that you have something like that? How can we break away from that? Because one of the things that we talk about in my program, which I said is unstoppable resilience through powerful practices to take your power back. You have to dive into that. You have to go and really look at that. So tell me, how does that how in your view we can break that?
I think to fight through those challenges and those comparisons, it's really important, first of all, to obviously have acceptance. I know we're going to discuss this a little bit further later on, but it's just acknowledging what is happening, looking at what is our flaws. Are they really flaws? Are they really, like, something that's going to stop you from being happy? Acknowledging your shortcomings, your mistakes, things that we often think is something we hate about ourselves or our bodies or our certain images. What are they and what is behind that? Just accepting who you are. A lot of things that a lot of people fight with, apart from self-image, is their mental challenges or their emotional challenges, that they think that, oh, I'm just dumb, or I'm just stupid, or I can't accept myself because they say I'm too tall, too short, all these different things that are feeding into your ears since very young often. And we think it's truth. Sometimes we just accept it that as a truth, and very often it's just about deep diving, like just literally peeling the onion skin off and seeing what's inside, where is it coming from, and accepting our flaws as well. Often just accepting what is happening. Can that be a strength? Can we turn it around? Really looking for the root cause is one of the steps, as well as self acceptance, and just
Okay.
diving deeper into these different causes and why it's happening.
So I'm thinking now that some of the practices or some of the steps it would be like your self-compassion. We spoke about having healthy boundaries. We also spoke about, and you just mentioned it, about focusing on our strengths, and is engaging in self-care practices, which is all the things that you talk about, and the negative thoughts. So how do we work on that negative thoughts? So that, how can we combat that? And is replacing that. So I'm just reiterating some of the things that you have just said. These are the steps that you would take to really um, be acceptable to yourself, self acceptance, loving yourself. And I think that is really, really key. See, I love myself with all my flaws.
But I'm sure it's
What you
funny
might
to get
consider
there.
flaws
Exactly.
is those are the things that I use to strengthen myself. You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
It's a journey,
That's what
isn't it?
it's a journey. It's a journey, and that's what helped me to build resilience. Resilience didn't just happen. It's something that you're doing every single day. Every day you're building resilience, and when a thought will come, because we have, I forgot what history research say how many thoughts we go through a day in a minute or whatever. It will come, but it's how you address it. What do you do when that thought comes that is negative? How do you turn that around? Are you able to speak to yourself? Are you able to speak good words to yourself? And those are the things that you would learn in our courses, in my practice as well. Those are the things that you would learn. So tell me, So I think those are some really great suggestions. So if we were to dive a little bit deeper um, into self-love,
Mhm,
embracing self-love and acceptance,
mhm.
we would dive a little bit deeper.
I think I would like
What?
I think I'd like to go back to those points, and given those three
Okay.
steps again, just to reiterate them. I've kind of given the broad picture because I thought we were going to go down a
Oh
certain
yeah, yeah,
path.
yeah. No
But
problem. We
let's go
can
back
we
to
can
those
go
ones.
back. We
So,
can go into
for
it. Yeah.
self-love, the first step would be understanding and valuing yourself. That's step number one. Understanding and valuing yourself. You know, what is self-love? Who are you? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your passions? What are your values? That's step number one from my side. Step number two is practicing self-care, which is again something I mentioned, but I haven't put the step two to it. And we've mentioned it in the previous episodes as well about self-care is taking care of our intentionally taking care of our
Mhm.
needs. It's taking actions to maintain and improve our physical, mental, and emotional well-being. Okay, so that's step number two, which we've given you guys very practical steps to go through that self-care process. If not, watch the other the other shows because we've gone
Episodes.
really deep into it. And number three, setting boundaries. Setting boundaries again is another topic we've dived deeper into in the another episode, but it's just establishing clear boundaries which are healthy for your relationships, for to establish healthy relationships not only with those around you but establish healthy relationships with yourself. That is so important, and this creates a sense of calm, of peace, you know, to move away from all those stresses, from all the things that are making you depressed, anxious, angry. So it's just it's those boundaries, those healthy boundaries that we need to tell people around us what behavior is acceptable and what behavior is not acceptable. That's step number three. And step number four, which again is something that I touched upon, but I would want to go a bit deeper into in a bit later, it's self acceptance. You know, it's embracing your imperfections, embracing, recognizing your qualities, recognizing what good you have and not just your flaws. Those are my steps.
Yeah, and I want to go back to that as you did that when we talk about healthy boundaries and in protecting yourself when you're setting the healthy boundaries is about your mental health and emotional well-being as well. So that have to be taken into consideration. Your mental health and your
Emotion.
emotional well-being because that is affected when you don't set those healthy boundaries. So you have to think about that.
Mhm.
And yes, as we carry on, we can always go back to certain things because one thing would lead into another, and we will touch on different topics that we'll then have to reiterate again. So as I've said before, as we want to dive deeper into the self acceptance, the self love, and even the steps that you would take in terms of how do you challenge those negative thoughts? How do you challenge those negative thoughts? And how can someone start doing this effectively? I have some thoughts, but then I would like to hear your side of it.
I think again, the negative self-talk is a progress on its own. We do need some external help with that, especially if we've been battling with it for many years, especially if it's really engraved in us and we feel we cannot break away from that. So for me personally, I had to get help, outside help, and be like, I don't even know how to recognize this pattern anymore. It just comes constantly. I've had other clients and other people around who I've worked with who, again, has been fighting with this for a very long time, and they don't even see the pattern until it's completely spiraled out of control. So obviously, with self-talk is either getting a help, getting professional, or starting to really deep dive into yourself, starting a journal, starting acknowledging it, recognizing it, and then starting to change the positive. If there's a negative, there's always a positive. So it's that balance, you know, trying to speak the affirmations. That's also a really good way to start combating negative self talk. Start looking at, if I say I'm, you know, oh, I'm so ugly. No, I'm I'm really good looking, I'm really pretty, I'm really healthy. Start combating those negative thoughts. We all have it, we still have it every day. But those who have managed to work through that is about working your self-esteem, working fighting those negativities that constantly come into your brain and into your mind.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I was just about to say that you need to challenge those those thoughts. You need
Hmm.
to challenge them, and you need to speak to them like you would speak to anybody else. Yes, somebody might say, "Oh, what's wrong with you? Are you mad?" Oh yeah, I'm mad. But you have to speak to it because it's speaking to you in a way that will, cause that emotional stress and distress. And so you need to speak to it. You need to have that self talk. You need to talk to yourself. Yes, speak to yourself because in doing so, what you're doing is training your mind, training your thoughts that you are in control, and your thoughts is not in control, but you are in control. And as Carolina said, write it down.
Hmm.
Write it down. And those thoughts are coming, write them down. And then you challenge them. You challenge them. And sometimes the thoughts could be, they could be exaggerated.
Hmm.
So you could be exaggerating something that is not there. So you need to really look at it. And as we talk about, is having that balance and compassion. So you replace that. You replace those doubts. You replace those negative thoughts with balance. You replace them with balance and compassion. So your thoughts now beginning to change. And as your thoughts change, your mind changes. And as your mind changes, it heals your body. So there is a three factor that is happening, that is working to create that balance and to give you that stability. We talked a lot about that, and I just wanted to go into what are some of the, we want to encourage self-love practices. So now that we have looked at the strategies of how we can combat it and what are the steps that we need to take, how can we integrate these practices into our daily lives? For me, how I integrate them constantly, with how I start my day with meditation and prayer. Okay, and then I probably will think, okay, I need to do some exercise, and I need to reaffirm affirmation, say those things that I know is going to build me up. So you need to find ways of how you're going to integrate them in your life, integrate them daily. So how would you go about that, Carolina? I know
Uh,
there are some other things that you can create and self-love there.
yeah, for me again, it was a bit of a journey. Trying to detach myself from these and trying to acknowledge them and trying to, like you said, have a conversation with myself. Is that really true? Do I really mean
Mhm.
that? Sometimes say, "Oh, I'm such a bad cook. Oh my God, like, I'm not as good as my mom, or I'm not as good as this person." And I realize that there's days that I cook and I'm like, my food is really good. And I'm like, I wish I didn't tell myself, like, I was such a bad cook. And sometimes it just becomes like custom. You automatically like, "Oh, I can't cook." So you think you're going to burn it even before you've started. Finding that, I grab that thought and be like, no, 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 let's bring it back. It was one day. Sometimes I forgot the stove on, it wasn't, it's not going to define the rest of my life. Stuff like that, just finding those little things that start rolling down and just creating that snowball effect in your mind, that you went from probably, forgetting it's happened to me. So, when you're cooking like various pots, and you've turned on the kettle, and at the same time you were boiling water, or boiling pasta or something, and chopping onions, and then you forgot that you had was already putting the pasta on, and it was already sizzling. And I'm like, oh my God, if my mom saw this, they'll be like, "You're the worst cook ever." But it was just the one day. It was one day. Why am I punishing myself thinking I'm the worst cook ever? Because it just happened that, I was really busy and I didn't look at it. So that was one of my things, to start acknowledging them. So start looking at when I'm saying it to myself. Is it true? Is it the worst thing that can happen? Can I make it right? So that's how kind of how when I started catching that those small snowballs that later on became big ones, and then how I incorporated that into my life, into my daily life. Again, very similar to you. You know, I wake up, I do my meditation, I also pray, I exercise, I drink my glass of water, either my lemon or my ginger water. It's something so key now, but I couldn't do this before. I literally needed a app to remind me to drink water at one point because I kept forgetting stuff like that. So if I needed an app and I needed, a counseling program for these different things, what can I do to make this negative thinking also a better for me? So that's how it started, with journaling as well, which I said I've been journaling in the night mostly. I plan my day, or I start catching anything that I like about myself. Just a nice affirmation. I've shared this in a previous podcast. It was about me writing my journal, and sometimes having a really difficult day, something negative happened, and I write it down, and I would write, this is how I feel, this is what went wrong, this is what went right. I very often look at the right things that went right, and then I write an affirmation for myself, something I did good or something I really liked. So, for example, sometimes it's really overwhelming, but especially when you're a single parent, when you're tidying up and you've got so much clothes and you've got so much things to do, and I feel like, oh my god, I've got too much and I can't take this anymore.
Yeah.
Then I realized, yes, you may have not done the laundry, but you cooked, you cleaned, you worked, you picked up, or you've done so much. And I'm like, yes, today you managed to get through your day, which is a fantastic thing to do. You are a brilliant mom. Your daughter came up to you and gave you a really big hug and said, Mommy, I love you. Thank you for the food. For me, it takes away, makes me forget about that one laundry basket that I didn't touch that day because I did something good. So, and then when I have a reflection day, the next time it happens, I realize, hey, that's not the worst thing that can happen to me. My daughter loves me. My family loves me. I've got, the warm embrace of somebody. All of these really positive things that start building into my daily life, and now after so long, finally it's part of my routine. But it definitely wasn't when I started. It took a lot of
Yeah.
time and self-love and
Yeah. Yeah.
restoring self-compassion with myself and being really nice to me.
Yeah, and I'm really glad you brought that up because I think it's so easy to look at all the negative and not look at the positive, and how you can create those activities in your life and how you can bring those things in to really help you to stay focused and to really help you with your self-care. So it's about making time, putting time in the diary. I know sometimes I get carried away maybe doing something else, but you have to now put things. I told myself I have to put, like, every time now, put something in the diary that I know, okay, I've spent an hour on this, then I need to do something else. You know what I mean? So that it gives you a bit of variety as well. So you're not just doing one thing and then you're thinking, oh my gosh, my day has got away with me and I haven't really done a lot. But when you sit back and you look at it, you have done a lot.
Yes.
You have done so much that you don't even realize what you have done. So it's not about beating up yourself, it's about embracing, it's about looking at what has happened and then you can carry on. This is a topic that can go on and on and on and on and on, because when we want to talk about it, we want to talk about it in depth, and we want to give you as much information as possible so that you can take those things in. The whole purpose of having this, the whole purpose why I decided to do this program is so that to form a community. We form a community and we can work with each other and we can help each other, we can build each other up and we can strengthen each other. We can help to build each other's resilience. And that is the whole purpose of doing this program. So if you have any questions, if you have anything that you want to say, feel free to write it in the chat, write it afterwards, because sometimes you can think while you're listening, because you want to take everything and you don't want to miss anything. If you're listening to us live and you go back and you're listening to it, then I want you to take everything in. So we don't want to take too much of your time. We want to thank you for the privilege of being here with us. But for our final thought, and we wouldn't take too long, for our final thought, just before we go, we just want to say that you know, self love and acceptance is an important. Is critical. It's critical to love yourself. Give yourself the love that you need. And if you have to sleep in one morning, don't. I know you might have to go to work, but maybe you might have to give yourself an extra 5 minutes. Don't beat yourself up, because maybe that 5 minutes might save your life.
Mhm.
That 5 minutes might save your life. So take the time and accept that. Accept, okay, I don't know what I'm being saved from today. I don't know what my journey was going to be like today, but I am thanking you. So give a little bit of a gratitude. Accept it and be grateful for that, because you never know what's around the corner. Um, it is an ongoing thing. Wouldn't you say self-love is an ongoing thing, is an ongoing process, just like building resilience is an ongoing process, something you have to keep working at. It's not just something that you do today and don't do tomorrow. Every day you have to keep loving you. Okay, so is there anything you want to say as we wrap up, how important that is and how
Yes.
important it is to practice kindness towards
Yes.
yourself?
Thank you, Verna. First of all, thank you for having me on. Like I said, this is a subject that I'm very passionate about because I had to go through the entire transition from zero to get to the place that I feel at peace with myself now. And 2 points that I want to finish off with that you also mentioned is self compassion. I think that was one of the things that I really struggled with the most, even with myself and some of my clients as well. Self compassion is really overlooked. When it comes to self love, we often think it's really selfish and we only think it's about going to the salon and the spa. It really isn't. You know, looking back into our inner self, our inner beings, and who we are at the core. Self compassion is just about being kind and respectful to ourselves like we would be for others. We very often
Mhm.
think that only, if I had to learn how to look after me with how I look after my daughter. I remember when I went through the counseling process and the different processes that I went through, one of the therapists said to me, would you treat your daughter the same way you treat yourself? Would you, not feed her? Because I was often not eating in the day. I was forgetting to eat, and I was eating like when I was starving in the night. He said, "Would you not feed your daughter?" And I went, "No, of course I get up really early to give her breakfast." And he said, "Okay, so why don't you have the same compassion with yourself? Why can you not be kind like that to yourself?" That was the first switch for me. But I was like, I didn't even realize I wasn't looking after myself the same way I look after my child or my family. You know, that was
Mhm.
something really key for me. So having that self compassion, am I being kind? Am I being respectful to myself like I am being to others? So that's definitely one of the points I want to close on. And the last one is community. Self love and self acceptance is all good and true if you're doing it for yourself, but sometimes we need help. The truth is, especially in my community of single parents, we can't do it all on our own. You know, we need our families, our friends, our neighbors, our community sometimes for support. And I know that thankfully in my community, we have formed such a beautiful community of neighbors that just help each other. There's days that one of them can't cook, the other one will take up cooking. There's days one of them needs to look after the kids. All of us take turns to look after the kids when they're playing outside. That is beautiful to know that sometimes I need to sleep another 10 minutes and that my neighbor has my back, that my family members can take my child for an extra 10 minutes for me to go to the gym. That is beautiful. So seek your community for that help as well. That's all. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
is key and is very important, having a supportive network around you. But it's also the importance as well is making sure that you talk about it about uh, you deserving love. You deserve to be loved. Yeah, so you deserve to be loved. You deserve to be respected. And it's not just when we talk about setting boundaries, it's not just about setting boundaries for other people to know what is and what is not. You have to set boundaries for yourself as well. Okay, what are you willing? It's like you said, not giving yourself breakfast. What am I willing to do for myself? What I'm not willing to accept for me to do to myself, you understand? So, because those things can become harmful. So again, I just want to say thank you everyone for being here. And you can always look us up. You can always look on my website at Verna dash Hayward.com. You can follow us here uh, on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube. Thank you so much for being here, because without you, it's it's not the same. You bring that joy, and you bring that loving kindness that we look forward to doing this show. And I appreciate you very much. And the whole, as I said before, the purpose of doing this program is to create a network, because this whole thing that I'm doing is all about, when we were talking about domestic abuse and breast cancer. And that's my specialty, that's my experience. And I want to bring to you all the things that I have learned during my 3 decades in the wellness industry, as well as my lifetime experience in terms of experiencing breast cancer and also experiencing domestic abuse. So when we're talking about, because when you go through these things, it's hard. You think it's hard to love yourself because you don't think that you are worthy of love, and you are worthy. You are so worthy. You are so, so worthy. And I just want you to know that you are not alone. You are not alone. We are here. If you want someone to speak to, as I said, I do consultations, and there is no commitment. You don't have to make any commitment. But if you just want somebody to talk to who have been there and have worked through it and have come out on top and continuing to grow, then I'm here for you. So I just want to say thank you, and we look forward to seeing you. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow on the next program. Tomorrow I'll be having Joel Stewart here with us, and he's going to be talking to you about another subject. So I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you very much. I appreciate you. So see you soon. Take care, and God bless. Hello, hello.